Here we go. Good evening. My name is Christian King, Vice Chairman of the City Council and Chairman of the Urban Technologies Innovation and Environment Committee. Joining me to my right on the committee is District 3 Councilor and Vice Chairperson George Russell. To my left is Councilor Morris Bergman, who will not be able to be with us today. Madam Clerk, if you can introduce yourself and share the virtual attendee call-in information.
Through the chair, certainly. My name is Claire Robbins, Deputy City Clerk, and I am clerking this evening's Urban Tech Committee meeting. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, and in order to ensure active public engagement, the City of Worcester currently allows for both in-person and remote participation at all City Council and Standing Committee meetings. To partake in the meeting, you may attend the meeting in person within the meeting location, which is here in the Esther Howland Chamber of City Hall. Follow the link on the city's website to join via Zoom or dial the direct line. If you join a Zoom meeting by dialing in with a phone number, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. The Zoom phone number for the Urban Technologies Innovation and Environment Committee meeting is 1-646-828-7666, with the access code being 160-069-3385.
Thank you. Would also like to announce we have Councilor Telhaji, District 5, also with us. We're going to go to approval of the minutes. Item 2A, order that the City Council Standing Committee of Urban Technologies, Innovation, and Environment hereby approves the minutes of the Urban Technologies, Innovation, and Environment Committee meeting of March 25, 2025. Roll call.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Bergman? And Chairperson Councilor King.
Yes. We're going to go a bit out of order, and we're going to take first items 4A and B. Then we'll go back to item 3A. So item 4A and B will take concurrently. Item 4A is transmitting information communication relative to the Green Worcester Electricity Municipal Aggregation Program that was filed in City Council in September. And we also have transmitting information communication relative to an update on the Green Worcester Electricity Municipal Aggregation Program that was in front of the council on April 29, 2025. Before we will begin, I will say that I do have some questions as relates to this. I know that we've recently entered into a new contract that begins in December of this month, December of 2025, two-year contract that goes through December of 2027. There are new rates in this agreement and the contract that are fixed for 2 years. And it's my understanding that that new contract lowers prices across all products. Additionally, there's a winter benefit for heat pump users, that residents who heat their homes primarily with air source heat pumps will receive an additional discount on electricity from December 2025 through February of 2026. So I would ask if you could introduce yourself, state your title, if you can give a brief update on these two items.
Through the chair, certainly. John Odell, I am the Chief Sustainability Officer for the city. Regarding both the municipal aggregation program and the update that you referenced in terms of the new pricing, as you noted, that contract has now gone into effect. People will actually see it on their next month's bills. And I'm happy to report that we were able to lower the price such that it's just a little bit less right now than what National Grid's price is for the standard green option. And that maintains about 2/3 of the electricity that everyone uses comes from renewable resources, which is great. And we got a lower price. So that is also great. That'll save folks a little over a penny a kilowatt hour, which sounds not too much, but it adds up pretty quickly, especially during the winter months when people who are using more electricity typically in the winter and the summer periods than the spring and the fall. So now that we're definitely into the winter, as I walked in here today in about 15-degree weather, it felt like, people's bills are starting to ratchet up, and having these savings is a good thing. It also keeps our, like, as I mentioned, the green component as well. One other quick note is that part of what we're also offering is a new basic green offering. So that allows people who, by request, would like to see an even potentially lower cost item. It would save another about 3/4 of a penny a kilowatt hour. So it's not a huge reduction, but again, it does add up. It doesn't have quite as much of the green component, but people can request that under the basic green title. And then the last thing I'll mention is this program is probably the most successful program we have in terms of lowering our carbon emissions here in the city. It's resulted in about 262 million pounds of carbon dioxide emissions that have not gone into the atmosphere because of this program, which is, for just reference sake, about the equivalent of about just under 28,000 gasoline-powered cars, taking them off the road for a year, which is actually roughly just under 50% of the cars here in the city that owned in the city. So that's actually a pretty significant number.
Thank you. And I know that we were looking for stable prices, consumer protection, and reducing the carbon footprint. It's in this report indicates that last year, this was written in April, so as of last spring, so in 2024, residents saved $1.5 million in comparison to National Grid's basic service rates, and that since 2020, nearly $13.5 million total was saved. Can you speak to the validity of those numbers?
Through the chair, that's correct. So at the time of this was taken, National Grid's prices, if you recall, especially right after the war in Ukraine broke out, gas prices jumped up considerably. Gas prices have a direct effect on electricity prices here in New England. And people who were, the way National Grid purchases their power, they were, in effect, forced to buy into a market that was very, very expensive because we had a supply contract that was already fixed. We get to keep our supply prices. And as a result, there was a significant delta between the amount of cost of electricity for folks under National Grid's rates versus under ours. And that attributes to the bulk of that savings. Since then, the savings have been more modest, but not inconsequential. So more recently, as I mentioned, we have lowered our rates so that they are just under National Grid's rates. But the savings that will accumulate for that will be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per year as opposed to the millions as it was during that time.
Thank you. And again, the aim was to have stable prices, consumer protection, reducing the carbon footprint. And I know you talked a little bit about the reduction of the carbon footprint. In this report, it indicates that the aggregated electrical supply was above state required minimum, and that the current minimum at the time of this writing was 24%, and that the municipalities, this Worcester's electricity program added another 40%, for a total of 64%. Are those numbers accurate currently? Is there any change since these numbers were received back in June?
Through the chair, yes, small change. The number that the state requires has now moved up to 27%. It ratchets up by about 2.5% every year. So we're at about 27% now. So add the 40%, we are almost exactly at 2/3 of the electricity comes from green resources here in the city for those who participate under the program.
Thank you. Councilor Russell. Councilor Hadjad, do you have anything? No? Okay. Is there anyone on the line for this item?
Through the chair, if anybody is online at this time that would like to, Oh, it looks like there are no residents online at this time.
Thank you. So the motion will be to file. Roll call.
Through the chair, could you just clarify, are you looking to file both 4A and
4A and 4B.
Great. Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Bergman, and Chairperson Counselor King.
Yes. So we're going to go to we're going to go out of order to item 3A, and then we'll come back to 4C shortly after that. Mr. Hamill, if you wanted to come up. Item 3A is an order from Councilor Atel Hajiai requesting the Standing Committee on Urban Technologies and Innovation and Environment hold a public hearing relative to feedback as to ways the social media policy can be updated and or more properly enforced. This was last in committee in December of 2023. We wanted to address this before the end of this term. And so a little bit of the history here. We had a number of challenges just for the public. If anyone reviews this particular meeting, where we had individuals who were targeted in social media. There were employees who reportedly were going after elected officials, appointed officials, and members of the public in ways that were concerning. Part of the concern was, in addition to those experienced realities, was that there was a concern around how are we tracking this in terms of technology? What is the oversight component? I think that's how it ended up here, because the other matters are really in HR issues. But those were a bit, a really abbreviated version of what was going on. There was an update on social media policy, a minor update that had occurred, but there was also a question of enforcement here. So before I turn it over to my vice chair here, if Councilor Hajiai, who was the filer of the order, if she wanted to speak, if she had any questions, Councilor Hajiai.
Thank you so much, Chairman King. Yeah, you gave a really good encapsulation of the inception of why this order came about, and I do want to add that one of the major impetus for it was when on the police union page, a resident of District 5 made serious accusations that were not only false, but that put in the crosshairs a young person, a minor at the time. That issue, as I understand it, was addressed privately with the family. As I understand it, no disciplinary measures were taken as a result. I have several concerns that revolve around the use of social media policy, both on the police union page and specific to a couple of employees of the Worcester Police Department. And while I am particularly focusing on those folks, that's because those were the only problematic city employees that I have specific information about, firsthand information and experience with, using social media in a way that has certainly brought a lot of threats against myself, but also undermining the work that the police department is doing in the community. And so I was under the impression that the police union page was not to be used for political purposes, but there's been instances where the members of the police union, perhaps former members of the police union and current police officers, have used that to make accusations specific to my case about putting anti-police flyers out around District 5. There has been several comments when the police department was investigating threats that I was receiving towards myself and my family. And these folks did not use the police union page, but they used their own personal pages to make accusations that I was lying. There were several defamatory statements around Councilor Nguyen and myself. Inciting was the correct word used. There were several defamatory negative statements made towards Councilor King, myself, and Councilor Nguyen. And in all those cases, I have reported them both to the chief and the city manager. And in all those cases, I was reassured that there was going to be a revision of the social media policy that reflects the ethical conduct of city employees. And so the purpose of looking and me trying for over 4 years now to get this item on the agenda is to make sure that city employees are behaving in the best ethical conduct and they're not being held to different standards. One of the most recent upsetting things that I ran across is when a member of the police department, Mr. Petroni, specifically undermined the work of the Department of Transportation and Mobility. I don't think that any other city employees, if they were making some similar undermining and negative comments towards their colleagues or policies that the city manager is implementing successfully, and they are backed by city council, would be not held to the same standard. There is nothing in our social media policy, as I understand it, that enforces and/or allows for any sort of disciplinary measures to be taken when city employees are not abiding by the ethical conduct. And so my hope, lastly, Mr. Chair, through you, is that whatever revisions are done to the social media policy, that some of these instances are taken into account. And I am more than happy to provide them in writing, as I have both to the city manager and express my concerns to the chief of police. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And yes, if you could just submit something in writing, I'd like to make a chairman's order that we request in writing what the counselor is testifying to be brought to committee. The first thing I'd like to do is Mr. Hamel, if you could introduce yourself and your title relative to this matter.
I have a point of order first before we even get started on this. Do we even have a policy, and is there one in
Yes.
front of us? Is it in our package?
I did not see it in the package, but we do have one. I've
So
reviewed it in the
How are we
past.
supposed to talk about it if we don't have it?
Well, we can get some more information from Mr. Hamel, who will explain his level of expertise, and then we can go from there.
And then my
Mr.
other
Councilor
question,
Russell.
if Mr. Hamel would address this as he's going forward, are we talking about a policy of the work, or the social media policy while a person
We
is
do have it
on?
in here.
Oh,
Looks
good.
like.
Thank you.
That was mine.
Okay, I'll take that one up. That, are we talking about, if you could address this as you make your presentation, about an employee's conduct in general, or just when they're on the clock, or on a city computer or a city cell phone, or be more specific, and then we can take it from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. If you could just explain your title and your name and what involvement you've had in establishing this, and I have some specific questions.
Sure. Through the chair, my name is Michael Hamill. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the city. And so, unfortunately, I have limited insight and ownership of the policy. So this, I think the original policy was an order under the former city manager. My role would typically be to look at this from the technology perspective. So the loss of information, looking at personally identifiable information getting out, or in the event of inappropriate use, potentially working with the HR department to revoke access to those resources. Through the chair to the counselor, I think the scope of the document, although I'm not the author of it, it does talk about the use of social media in a personal sense and behavior around that, as well as using it as an official city source of information.
Thank you. So I appreciate that. Councilor Russell, if I may, I just have a couple of things I think that questions I'd like to ask, and I come back to you regarding Mr. Hamill's role. If you could just restate the exact title, I don't want to get it wrong. Your title.
Chief Information Officer.
So we got Chief Info and Chief Sustainability. So if I call you both Chief, it's easy. So Chief, if you could explain, in this policy, it talks about what you may or may not post on the internet and social media. This is for employees, the scope of policy. There's some definitions here. Protected health information, social networking, social media, confidential and proprietary information, et cetera. Confidential and proprietary information about a municipal department. There's a whole host of things, guidelines for posting on social media, the importance of making it clear you're speaking on your own behalf, disclosing your connection with the city, any of its departments, making sure you're not using city email address as a means of contact and identification. Also some other general rules, and an advisement to be respectful to your coworkers and members of the public. So, I do think this is an HR matter that would be properly before the municipal operations group that has oversight over HR. But my question to you is, in terms of the technology piece, how is this being tracked, and what's the enforcement piece, if any, that's currently occurring? For a testimony today about, we've had political attacks by departments, et cetera, and targeting individuals in the community, targeting elected officials, et cetera. What is the role that your department is playing with oversight to the policy?
To the chair, today there's really no role. So we don't do any tracking, particularly personal social media. We do support the communications team with setting up account access and that sort of thing, or potentially supporting getting access to the links to our social media on the website. But we don't actively track anybody's personal accounts.
So can I ask a clarifying question? So you said that you do assist with support. Are you talking about the police union page? Are you talking about city managers, whatever?
I'm not aware of any involvement with the police union page, but correct, for the city manager's office, the communications team, we would support them as somebody came on board that was part of the communications team, and providing social media posts, we would make sure that they're able to access those social media avenues to perform their job duties, but that's about the extent of it.
And I'm not trying to go too far off in the tangent, but with respect to the Facebook feed, et cetera, do you have oversight of that as well?
To the chair, only in the sense of providing access. So we don't have oversight. We don't monitor the way the communications team uses the social media platforms, but we do provide the security around access to those sites and login credentials and that sort of thing.
Okay, so if the police department has a police union page, is there any other departments you're aware of that have their own page? And who would bring that to your attention?
To the chair, not off the top of my head. The communications team would certainly
one.
have the full scope, but for the most part, those communications go through that central channel to make sure everyone is aligned.
Okay, and let me just, for clarification, so those two, what's the PD union page, city managed communications, I don't know what that name is, but say for the sake of it, their communications page, nothing's tracked there from your department? There's no oversight?
To the chair, that's correct, and I believe we would provide access for the police department, certainly to the police Facebook page, or social media pages. I'm not aware of any involvement
Twitter
that we've had with
X.
any union pages.
Okay.
Correct.
And so I know that this is an area of your expertise in terms of government and technology. Are you aware of, have you done any or looked into how other municipalities, other forms of government use technology to have some sort of oversight with these sorts of things?
To the chair, in the internal context.
Yes, internal.
Yes, not for personal social media accounts, but in the internal context, I would say not so much in terms of oversight, but management. So there are a lot of communities that use tools such as Hootsuite, which do provide sort of enterprise.
Hootsuite?
Hoot, Hoot. So they provide enterprise governance. So you've got one landing place where you've got all your social media that supports things like retention of records, but it also provides more control over the accounts and scheduling of social media posts, because sometimes the time to get the communications out might not be the time that people are working. So it's sort of more of a social media governance overall, but it can be used for reporting, for records archiving, for scheduling. So many municipalities do use those sort of tools.
Thank you. Have anything further? Councilor Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I moved away so I won't be coughing on everybody. Mr. Chairman, I think we've got, this is back, the item that's before us is an item that was a request that was made under the current administration, under City Manager Batista, and we've got a policy that was put forward by City Manager Augustus. I presume that policy is still in place. Am I correct, Mr. Chairman?
That's correct.
Okay, so, and as far as equipment, and I guess the same could be said on city time, but even on equipment, don't we have a prohibition from doing, when I say we, the city of Worcester, have a prohibition from using various different websites on city equipment, like TikTok and Facebook and all those kinds of things? Do we have that through you, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Hamill?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay.
We do have rules in place, so certainly under the policy, employees shouldn't be using social media, particularly personal social media, during work time on city devices. Those tools are blocked for most employees. Certainly there are employees who part of their
Right.
job function is to use social media, but that is correct.
And I know, I haven't been targeted to the effect of some of my colleagues, but I've been targeted by various different folks online too, and some that you kind of scratch your head and you say, gee, what role were they in when they were doing that? I've been blocked by people and whatever, commented about and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is that if you read former manager Augustus's policy, I think he's careful not to infringe on freedom of speech when somebody's off the clock, so to speak, when they're not on public time and not on public equipment and that kind of thing. I think that the answer might be here is that the current administration should make a decision if they want to investigate, if you will, and Mr. Hamill correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hamill, through you, Mr. Chairman, but I'm hearing that we don't have a policy where we're investigating to see if someone was on duty when they were doing something or on a city cell phone or a city computer or anything to that effect. So I don't know what else we can do other than maybe request the administration to consider coming up with some kind of a game plan.
And through the chair to the counselor, I would say, the matter, if there were something to come up, I think it would go through the HR department or potentially, if it started with the police department. So in the scenario you're describing, something might come to us, but it would have been vetted by the HR department, and then they might request us to pull the records specific to that scenario. So we wouldn't be proactively trying to find out if someone was doing something, but if there were some sort of personnel matter, we would be able to assist.
And
in that
again,
specific
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mr. Hamill, but I think that's part of the thing with the manager set up. I don't know if it's an official policy, if it's just a way of operating, where he set up the diversity officer and the investigators under the diversity officer to handle any kinds of complaints from the public or from anyone, or even internal complaints about any kind of wrongdoing of any city employee. And I guess that channel is already set up, so I would hope that that is utilized by any member of the public, or for that matter, even members of the council or members of the staff if they're affected by it. And I think that's in place. But other than that, I don't know what else we could do at this point.
Thank you, Councilor Russell. Councilor Hajiat, do you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the questions that I had asked the city manager was whether the Worcester Police Department has a separate social media policy, and I believe they do. They have their own social media policy that's not folded into the city's social media policy. And I do believe that there are examples where balancing the needs for freedom of speech, which I respect and I honor. Other departments, for example, have instituted a code of conduct embedded within their social media policy that even if you are posting, for example, as on your own personal time, that you should, that there's a code of conduct that outlines that you shouldn't be using defamatory statements or harassment or things that lead to bullying and behaviors that are dangerous to anybody, but also specifically to public officials. And honestly, for me, this comes down to the fact that, I will say this very clearly again, it's my belief that if other city employees were to conduct themselves in the same manner that some folks have who either run, manage, or post in the police union page and their own personal pages, that they would have held to a different standard. And I simply do not believe that's a correct message to send to public servants in the city. So, Mr. Chair, if you're open to it, one of the things that potentially this committee could ask for is clarification whether the Worcester Police Department specifically has a different social media policy, and whether within that social media policy there could be a code of conduct embedded that specifically addresses behavior online towards both public officials but also any residents or citizens in the city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Hamill, in terms of the technology piece, is there social media monitoring that currently takes place? So there's some blockages on things that folks can do on their city-issued devices. Policy is very clear that those devices are subject to review at any point in time. What is the software? What is the technology? Does it ever occur?
Does the use of social media on city devices occur?
Social media monitoring of employees.
We have no proactive monitoring of employees. We do have the tools that are, logging the activity that is happening on our network. So if there were a reason to believe that we needed to do an investigation, or if we were thinking about policies and we wanted to look at the use of social media to see if a policy change was needed, we would have the data to support that, but we don't have any proactive monitoring of social media usage today.
And how long have you been in your position as a chief?
Just about 4 years.
4 years. And to date, have you been called upon, without giving any specific individuals' names, to participate in any social media monitoring of folks who are currently employed in the city?
I can't recall any scenarios of looking for social media posts or anything like that specifically.
Okay.
Just in investigations, computer usage generally, but nothing where we've been asked to monitor specific posts of an individual or anything of the like.
Or a group?
Correct,
No.
or a group.
Okay. Okay. I think one of the things that Councilor Russell brought up is that this particular policy, like many policies, predated folks currently on the council, coming on the council, various city managers. We have all sorts of policy floating around the city. But one of the requests, it looks like here, and according to Councilor Haggiai's testimony today, that the current sitting city manager was inclined to update this particular policy. So I'd like to make a motion that this committee requests that they do that with a report clarifying what social meeting monitoring is available for the city's usage. And in addition to that, to include assessment by the city solicitor's office around freedom of speech, et cetera. Again, I think this is really an HR issue. I was interested to hear today what oversight, or monitoring, is a better word, what monitoring has occurred or does occur with regards to, even the city manager's communications team, the Worcester PD social media page, et cetera. Also like a separate motion that there be a response or report from the city manager indicating whether or not there is in fact a separate media policy for Worcester PD, and including its social media pages, and a report back from the administration on any efforts to address the concerns that have been brought forward by the public and elected officials. Yeah.
I would suggest that you, if you're going to do that, if you want to do it as a chairman's order, that's your right to do it. I think that if you want to include and/or other departments, I'll support that.
Sure, absolutely.
But I don't want to just
Yeah,
single
we'll
out one
support that.
department. And not only that, I think that part of the controversy in recent years has been individuals who are not the department itself. When we talked about the police department, I can remember sending the city manager a text one day saying, gee, I can't believe the police department put this out. And it was somebody who on Facebook said Worcester Police Department was highlighted, and it wasn't the Worcester Police Department. I didn't look at it closely. So many times you've got the union, you've got individual members, you've got, and not only the police department, but other departments. So I have no problem asking for the manager for a report in general about all departments, if you want to include that, or you can do it as a chairman's order if you want to be specific.
Sure. And we'll also, we can do a chairman's order requesting that there be a report back on the process for press releases by departments. Obviously, I think that happens on occasion. We'll have DPW during the storms. We've had the Worcester PD prior to the Department of Justice report. What that process is. That'll be an HR matter and a city council matter.
Okay.
And that would be a chairman's order as well. Again, chairman's order for clarification of Worcester PD. Do they have a different social media policy and or code of conduct related to this policy and to social media and to the concerns that were referenced earlier?
Talking about the department, correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Not the police union or members.
correct.
Okay, just to clarify.
I do, again, this is not for Mr. Hamble, but in looking at this that's before us, there is a number of restrictions and conditions related to the use of department logos and uniforms in images or video. Worcester seal of the city of Worcester, of any department logo, trademark, uniform patch, or proprietary graphics. They are not allowed to be used in any way unless approved by the city manager. So through the chair to Mr. Hamill, with respect to that, I'm assuming that the only way that would come to your attention if someone brought it to your attention. That's not something that you can monitor in any sort of way.
To the chair, that would be correct. And if I were to see something of that nature that would be concerning, that would be probably something I would bring to the city manager. But it's, yeah, you're correct. That's not something we monitor, and it would be difficult to, well, it would be, I think, fraught, but also difficult to identify everybody's social media page and try to monitor that.
Okay. And with regards to social networking during work time, that's on item D3, it looks like, in this policy. It indicates no social networking during work time, no taking videos or images during responses, which is a separate issue. No posting on City of Worcester sites, any of its departments, that they should not be used on city vehicle, city devices or in city vehicles, etc. If that were to be a concern, someone's using their social media while in a cruiser, in a DPW truck, etc. How is it that you gather that information outside of a request from the solicitor? Outside of that, is there a mechanism that you could use?
We do have tools where we could track utilization.
Only on
of
city
social media.
devices.
Only on city
Correct.
devices, correct. We don't actively, we have the collection of the information. We only dig into that information when there's a personnel issue that comes up. But we aren't actively, today, we don't have a policy of actively trying to find people who are abusing social media. But I think typically that would become a personnel matter that would come to our attention as one of many factors that are
Right.
being looked at.
Which goes back to HR. Okay.
Correct.
Councilor Adger, do you have anything else following up? Okay. I think that's it. I'd also like to make a chairman's order that this policy, if I haven't already, be updated by the current city manager so he can put his blueprint on this. I like to do that by way of I don't want a chairman's order, just a regular motion. And then also that this item, let me read it here, item 3A, order of Councilor Atel Hajjai, request standing committee on urban technologies, innovation, environment, hold a public hearing, that there be a chairman's order that this be sent over to municipal operations for the next term, so that that'll be there once the city manager does his update, because there's some HR implications here. I'm interested to hear, in my job as state employment, if you certainly have a right to do as you please. As a union elected official, you have a right to do as you please in certain ways. But if you're doing something that undermines the integrity of your function, of your agency or department, that there's contract language, collective bargaining related to that. So that would be for municipal operations to deal with, not this particular group. But I would like this to be sent over to MLO. That would be by chairman's order. Yes.
I don't know if you could do that by a chairman's order, but I'll support sending it over if you'd like.
Okay. All right.
Maybe the clerk can clarify, maybe I'm wrong.
Through the chair, Counselor, if you could just repeat your question, unfortunately.
The
I didn't hear
question
it.
was can an item be transferred to another committee by a chairman's order?
What we could do is he could
We could take it.
request maybe the MLO and Urban Time meet together to review the order. I do want to just make sure I'm understanding. Counselor, so what I have is, through the chair, is 6 chairman's orders regarding this item, but I did want to know if your intent is to hold this item?
That's a question.
No, we're going to file it.
Well, there'd be
Yeah, we're
motion
going to file it. I think this needs to be taken up in MLO. I think the issues and the questions that we have should come back under HR, if that makes sense. Because we're talking about codes of conduct, we're talking about collective bargaining, we're talking about HR. The technology piece here that we're discussing is clear that there isn't anything currently. I would like to perhaps make a chairman's order that we get a report back on ways, that technology might be used to monitor best practices for monitoring social media by city employees.
So the official action on this will be to file this item, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. So it's a motion to file in the chairman's order. Is that okay, Claire?
Through the chair, yes. I will take a roll call on that file, and that would be Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Bergman, and Chairperson Counselor King.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hamel. Thank you, Counselor Hajiai. We're going to go on to item 4C, transmitting information communication relative to the Green Worcester Plan 2024 Annual Report. And we are now in 2025. A lot of good work that's being done there. If I can flip to this really quickly. I think this is it here. Yeah. It's my understanding this particular item came before us in June, so just a few months ago, at the beginning of the summer. And there's been a lot of work that's been done. I know the Worcester Advisory Committee has been active. This particular report that came in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's from January 2024 to December of 2024 is the timestamp on that. We have some climate mitigation goals. By 2030, 100% renewable energy for municipal facilities. That's 5 years away. 2035, 9 years away. It's 4 years away for the first one. 100% renewable electricity citywide through the Community Choice Aggregation Program. By 2045, 100% renewable energy for residents and business, including for heat and transportation. I know that there were some concerns in the past from the advisory committee and other folks that the city would not be able to meet some of the goals. We have goals here related to zero waste, improving health and safety of residents, et cetera. One of the things that I'm particularly interested in is the Department of Sustainability and Resilience's priority actions for 2025. And what I would like to do by way of a motion would be that we get a scorecard with the latest updates on where we are with the action plans. I know right here in this particular packet, some of these actionable items have been initiated. There's a status and progress section to this that's quite detailed and quite lengthy. Indicates some things are completed, some are ongoing, some are starting, some are refocused, et cetera. And what I'm looking to do in 2026 with whomever is chairing this, if we can get an update on those actionable items, a scorecard, similar to what we have here, but it's updated, given the fact that this is based on calendar year 2024, and hopefully we can get that in the first quarter of the year. Chief Odell.
Through the chair, we can certainly do something like that on a scorecard basis. It is, as you referenced, an awful lot of data, and sort of trying to summarize it in a way that's clear can be a challenge because there are like anything, there can be nuance, but a scorecard of a way just to sort of track how we're doing overall and to provide a legend for folks to say, what the scoring represents. We can certainly do something like that. Unfortunately, realistically, we do not actually get a lot of the data that we need from the utilities, which helps us track some of the utility gas, electricity data runs about 3 months behind, so we don't even get it until really the very beginning of spring, end of winter. So it takes usually, that's why this was provided to you in June, and likely will end up at roughly the same time next year as well, for that reason.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Russell. Okay, Vice Chairman Russell's all set. I think I'm all set as well. So motion will be to file. Roll call.
Counselor Russell?
Yes.
Counselor Bergman? And Chairperson Counselor King.
Yes. And I think we have item 3B is the last item. Is that right?
Through the chair, that is correct. Item 3B.
Item 3B, order of Councilor Christian E. King, request Standing Committee on Urban Technologies, Innovation, and Environment invite representatives from DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, to attend a meeting to discuss best practices for treating the city's lakes and ponds. We've had a number of challenges in our blue spaces this year. I know I've been in meetings with Chief Odell over at Indian Lake. There's a lot of work that's being done in a number of bodies of our blue spaces, and we've received updates, and some of the concern was around communication from the city to its residents and folks who use those blue spaces. It's my understanding that there's been improvement on that going back some months now. So if you could speak to that, then I have some follow-up questions.
Yes, through the chair. So as you noted, we did have several community meetings about this. We have, because of those meetings, we were able to collect a lot of email addresses so we can notify folks, particularly around Indian Lake, who are concerned about some of the issues that came up over the summer, so that we can have direct communication with them to give them regular updates. The good news is that managing any lake, any water body has, especially one in an urban area, is challenging. There are a lot of inputs that come in from different avenues into the lake that can cause a wide variety of changes to occur to the lake. Almost all of them are not ideal. If we, if we were left with not interfering, we would end up with a lake that wouldn't be able to be used by anybody recreationally. So we do have to make judgment calls in terms of this, how we react to these issues. The good news is I think that we were able to thread the needle, as it were, where we had a pretty tough situation and were able to resolve those issues and explain those issues in a way that was pretty clear for folks, both at that moment, but now we've continued to do that, so we let folks know what we're going to be doing for the upcoming spring season. People seem to be understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it. We did have the recent drawdown at Indian Lake in specific that has allowed folks to see around their own particular area. That drawdown was done to control some nuisance weeds, and people seem to be understanding of what we're doing and why we're trying to do it.
Thank you for your work and for your words. With respect to managing, as you mentioned, water bodies in an urban area and those challenges, what are the tools that would assist the city in better management of those spaces? I know that when I don't know what the correct terminology is, I'll say dragged or raked. They had that equipment that came in to Indian Lake that cost, I think, a pretty penny. What is it that we need in terms of equipment that's lacking?
Through the chair, so I'm going to answer your question sort of in two pieces. The first is just the recognition that our Lakes and Ponds program for the city is it's a very rare program. In fact, there's none others that we have that are quite built like ours is here in the city throughout New England, to our knowledge. There are certainly state organizations that help oversee water bodies and DPW departments in other communities that do monitor their water bodies to a level, but none to the degree that we do here, especially in how we involve community members to do that. So what we often always need is, in terms of resources, is not so much equipment anymore. We do have pretty good equipment in place right now. But what we always need is the resources of just more people to help manage both the volunteers and for doing the day-to-day monitoring of all these lakes and water bodies. We have 20 in our city, and we only actively manage 4. And there was easily a need, if we could do it, to manage several others. We get an awful lot of requests to do more for that, but we just simply don't have the resources in our Lakes and Ponds department. It's basically 2 people and an intern, and those people get spread thin very quickly, especially during the spring, summer, fall season. So, but our focus is on the 4 that we actively manage, and I think we do that actually quite well, given the uses of those water bodies and the inputs that go into those water bodies. We've actually been quite successful compared to our other communities across the state.
Can you just share for the public, if anyone happens to tune into this, so they can understand what the 4 bodies are for people that may not be familiar?
Sure. So they're the water bodies that basically you see people use for public beaches. We have Indian Lake, we have Coast Pond, we have Lake Quinsigamond, and got me on the spot here and I'm blanking. And a 4th to be named later.
Maybe it'll come back to you. You know, these are important blue spaces. I think they all are, for a host of reasons. Can you share kind of what the importance is to our community of having vibrant water spaces, blue spaces?
Yeah, through the chair, blue spaces are really a very strong community asset, and it's Bell Pond. Thank you. I knew
Bell
it would come.
Pond, there you go.
That would come.
I knew it would come.
And these water bodies often are, especially for folks who don't have the means to, say, go to vacation down the Cape or something like that on a regular basis. These water bodies often are where people can go to relax, to fish, to take a swim, to cool off on a hot summer day. Anyone in the city can do it, but they're often, some of the people who use it the most are the ones who this is a primary resource for them. The price is right, and it is local, which is a huge advantage for residents here. And the best part is that, and I hear this a lot, is that it's not always the fact that everyone uses it all the time. It's just they know that they can use it all the time, and they want it to be available for that use when they want to use it. They don't want to have to, on a hot summer day, find out that they can't use the beach because we have to close it for a cyanobacteria outbreak, for example. What our program is designed to do is to minimize that as effectively as possible so that people can not only enjoy the view of the lake, but actually take a swim, can learn to fish potentially in some of our ponds, to go on a sailboat or other kind of water recreation vehicle, and use that lake in a way that is what we all remember from when we were kids as well, is just to have some fun, especially for the kids who often don't get those opportunities on a regular basis. So it's a really valuable resource for us.
Thank you. And how often I know you have a State of the Lakes a sort of, I don't know if I call it an event, but a report, which is annually. One of the things that I was hoping to talk to you about is there an ability to conduct some sort of level of reporting quarterly? One of the concerns that was brought forward by the Indian Lake Group and other groups has been sort of the timing of some of the communication. I know that you and your team routinely go out to the watershed associations, et cetera. But what I'm trying to build in is hopefully for the next person that we are able to review things quarterly here in this committee or by the council so that folks will be appraised and the elected officials along with them. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Through the chair, so a few, just want to be cognizant of everyone's limited time. The water season is predominantly, as you would expect, the use are used predominantly during the spring through the fall. We're doing mostly data review during the off-season from what we could do before. So there's really not too much to report for the winter season in particular, and really for most of the spring season too. It's really toward the end of spring that people actually actively using it, and we actually have data results to report. We do provide those currently on a regular basis on our website, and what we've tried to do in recognition of what you had put forth earlier is to be much more, not just put it on the website, but to then advertise that we did put it on the website so that anyone who's interested in these regular updates that we provide on individual water bodies can have access to that and be aware that to go where to look so that they can feel informed on a regular basis. We gather information on our lakes and ponds from typically a 2 to 4 week period basis. And so once the data is collected, analyzed, and then we have a report out on that, that's when we then provide that information. So it's a little staggered, and I think it would probably not be in everyone's benefit if we structured it such that we ended up not being able to give you guys the information you want when you want it because it's just not available.
That makes sense. Thank you for your being candid. What I would ask is that as that data comes out, staggered, just a chairman's order that we get that in the form of report to the council on a regular basis, and the council can decide what they want to do with it. So that'd be my chairman's order. Councilor Russell.
Mr. Chairman,
He was on the.
did you
Councilor, weren't you on the watershed?
Oh, yeah.
Group, Lake Quincy. I know.
Thank you for remembering.
I
that,
do
Mr.
remember.
Chairman.
I lived on
Mr.
Lake
Chairman,
Quincy for a
it's good
while,
to be
and I know that you have
appreciated.
some experience.
It's good to be appreciated at being a past president of the Lake Quinsigamon Watershed Association. But I'm sure to include that on my resume. But I noticed the way the item is worded. It says you're going to invite DCR in. Did you invite them and they didn't come, or what happened with that?
Yeah, I wanted it to come before committee. My order will be that the clerk draft an invitation to those representatives for the next term.
Yeah, I just would add, and I think all the good work that the administration does in the blue spaces across the city, but I will pass along the message to you that some of my friends on Lake Quinsigamon, when they see things going on in other areas, they don't quite register with them that that's a separate entity and it's controlled by the Lake Quinsigamon Commission that's appointed by the governor. And it has Worcester has representatives from the Conservation Commission and the general public, members that are appointed by the city manager, but it's a combination of Worcester, Grafton, and Shrewsbury, and it meets in Shrewsbury. And I'm just hoping, and I think that maybe when that comes back to your committee in the future, Mr. Chairman, if you're here on this committee or whoever is here on this committee, it might be some information about the interaction with the Lake Quinsigamon Commission in depth, and maybe publicize that, because the residents on the Worcester side don't always feel like they're getting enough of attention to their issues from the city, even though the city does take part and a lot, including funding some of the dredging and weed control.
Through the chair, sure. It's an excellent point. The funding actually is funneled through the town of Shrewsbury, not through the city of Worcester, so it is sometimes not as easily accessible to learn what's been funded through the commission because it doesn't pass through the city directly. So we can certainly make sure that those meeting minutes, for example, are made public here on our side as well.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that level of expertise, Councilor Russell. I would like to do a chairman's order requesting that the minutes for 2025 be provided to the council relative to Lake Quinsigamon Commission, obviously, and including our participation in that. And that's all I have. So the motion would be, I think the first one, Claire, is that we request that the clerk write up a formal invitation to representatives of DCR to attend a future meeting in the spring of 2026. And in addition to that, Councilor Russell's points about Lake Quinsigamon's commission be realized. So that would be the two orders.
Through the chair, I did have two additional orders. I just
Okay.
want to make sure that I'm capturing them correctly.
Sure.
You had also mentioned providing a scorecard in addition to the annual report relative to calendar year 2026. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other one, request sustainability and resilience, provide city council with regular updates relative to data associated with the water bodies. Was that correct as well?
Yes, and maybe we can amend that to say seasonal.
Okay. And then through the chair, as you mentioned, request that the clerk invites DCR to an upcoming meeting of Urban Tie in spring of 2026. And then just to make sure that I captured that last one correctly as well, request that the department provide city council with the minutes from the Lake Quinsigamon Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, and a motion to adjourn as well. Could we do those all at once in a
Through
roll
the chair,
call?
before doing so, could I just make sure, are you interested in holding that item? Is that correct?
Sure. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
That's it.
Roll call?
Are you, through the chair, I'm sorry, did you say roll call to adjourn?
All of the above, yes.
Okay. Counselor Russell?
Yes.
Counselor Bergman? And Chairperson, Counselor King?
Yes.